If you're looking to build more comprehensive and more complex menu structures as part of your website, mega menus can be an amazing way of doing things, but they're not necessarily the easiest thing to create. That is, until we take a look at how to use the nav menu feature for Ultimate Add-ons for Elementor. Let me just give you a quick example of what we're going to create. So we take a look at the top section. You can see I currently have two areas, the latest goodies and the latest blogs. If I mouse over these, you can see we now get a custom mega menu that shows us all the latest products, or we can go over and take a look at the latest blog posts. This is being created with Ultimate Add-ons for Elementor, and in this video, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to do something very, very similar. Now, before we start, let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Paul C, and I'm here working with Brainstorm Force to bring you a series of tutorials on getting the most out of Ultimate Add-ons for Elementor. If you enjoy this kind of content, please consider subscribing and smashing that bell icon below to be notified every time new content is released. So let's start this off with a really simple example, and then we'll move on to some more comprehensive menus. What we're going to do is we're going to come over into the template section, and from there we're going to come down to our theme builder for Elementor. Inside there, we're going to create a new header section. This is going to house our new menu and our logo. All we're going to do is say add new, and we're going to tell it we want this to be a header, and we'll give this a name of default header. We'll create that template, and once we've done that, we can take a look at working inside Elementor. Now we could, if we wanted to, use any of the predefined blocks and use those as starting point, or we can start completely from scratch, and that's what we're going to do in this example. We'll close this down, and we're simply going to create a very simple structure. I'm going to add a new element, and we're going to set this up to be a 2-column single row area. Left hand side is going to be our logo, right hand side is going to be our navigation. So what we're going to do first of all is find the logo widget, and you can see there it is, site logo. We'll drag and drop that into the first area and let that pull in our actual logo. We'll style that in a moment once we set the menu side of things up. Okay, so what do we need to do next? We're going to come back into our widgets and we're going to search for navigation. And you can see there's our navigation menu, and you can tell it's part of the Ultimate Add-ons for Elementor because we have this UAE in the top right hand corner to avoid any form of confusion. We'll drag that into the top right hand side, and we've now inserted the basic menu structure into our top area. Now you can see if we take a look at the left hand side, we've got a range of different options that allows us to not only style things, but also choose how our menu is made up. Now you can see the first thing is the menu, and then we've got type. We have two options inside here. We've got the WordPress menu, and that will use the default WordPress menu widget. And underneath that, you've got the option to choose which menu you want to use. Currently, this is set up to use the main menu, but if you've got any other one set inside here, you can easily choose those from the menu options. For this first example, we'll leave those options as they are. We'll just work with the WordPress menu, and we'll take a look at the layout and styling options that we have before we move on to the more comprehensive options. So let's take a look at layout next. Inside there, we can now control both the responsive mode and the standard mode for desktop. And as you can see, we've got some pretty straightforward options. We can choose the layout. We'll come back to that in a moment. We can choose the alignment of any of those layouts. So you can see we've got left, center, right, and justify. Let's set this over to the right-hand side so it makes a little more sense within our design. We then got the sub-menu icons. And you can see currently, if you look at the account menu, we've got the little chevron pointing down. That's using the arrow option, but we could change that to a plus sign, or we can choose classic. You've then got the sub-menu animation, and we have two options, the default, and we've got slide up. You can choose that, and you'll find that that will then slide in from the bottom, giving us that nice animation. Let's set that back to default for now. We've then got the responsive option, and what we can do now is we can switch this over into responsive mode. For example, we'll switch it over to tablet, and we can now set the styling and control the various different elements from inside the responsive area. You can see we've got the breakpoints, which are set as part of Elementor. We've got the alignment in the same way that we have with the above option, so we'll just set that to be right hand side as well. We can choose this to be full width if we want to, and then we've got the option to choose any icon we want to use for the menu icon or for the close icon. We can choose the default options, which are already inserted. We can use the icon library and choose anything from within the standard icons we have, or any custom icon libraries you may have inserted. And finally, we could also upload our own custom SVGs. So it's really simple and straightforward to set this up. It's also very easy to make sure that your navigation on mobile and tablets looks the way you want. So we can open this up and take a look and edit anything we want. So let's click to open it up, and you can see there's our navigation set up as part of the mobile device. Now we can go through and style everything to make sure it looks exactly the way we want. We can do the same if we switch over into mobile view, and again we can make sure that everything is laid out exactly the way that we need it to. Let's switch this back over now to our desktop view and take a look at what options we have inside the next option, which is the style menu. You can see we can control the horizontal and vertical padding. We can adjust the spacing between each of our entries, and we can easily adjust those on not only the desktop or a global level, we can adjust those based upon the different devices we want to choose from as well. So we can customize all aspects no matter what device our website is going to be viewed upon. So that's pretty cool to see. We've also got link hover effects. Now currently you can see nothing happens when you take your mouse over any of these. However, we can change that by just choosing any of the link hover effects that we have available. So if we wanted this to be overlined, for example, we can choose that option, come over, and you can see now we get a line above each one of our links when we mouse over it. We can even control the animation effect. Currently we have fade, but we could choose from any of the options that are available to us. So let's leave that set to overline, that's perfectly fine. We then have the typography options, and we can control the both normal, hover, and active states. So this is the kind of thing you're used to seeing inside Elementor. It's very easy to use, so I'm not going to go into detail with that because it's pretty self-explanatory. You can just choose the text and background color for any of those states of your navigation. Really nice and simple and easy. You then have the option to control the drop down. So if we expand that, you can see where we've got the account and we've got my account and cart. We can do the same kind of things here. We can control the normal, the hover, and the active states, adjust the colors, the background color, typography, border, and all those kinds of useful things. If we scroll on down, you can see we've also got the option to control the drop-down width, horizontal padding, and so on. So currently this is set to 220. Let's bump that up to something like 350, and we'll take a look. And you can see, even though it's gone off the edge of the screen, unfortunately, it's made the navigation, made that drop down larger and wider. We can control the divider, so each of those individual items inside there, we can control that and set the color, we can set the border style, the border width, and so on. All pretty cool. If we take a look then at the menu and trigger and close icons, we can open that up, and again, we can control those. So if we're in the responsive mode and we've got tablet, for example, we can now control all the options for this. We want to change the color, we could do just that. So we can set that to blue, gray, any of our predefined colors, or choose any color you want as part of your color palette. Let's just set that back to black, that's perfectly fine. And we can also adjust the icon size, border width, and border radius. And again, we can do that across the different types of devices. So we can customize this to look good across all different types of devices. Now coming back to our content section, let's take a look at some of the other options we have. At the moment we're looking at the default WordPress menu, but we can, if we want to, create custom menus inside here. If we choose custom, this now opens up all the custom options, and you can see the menu on the top right hand side now changes to take on these new custom menu items. So that's pretty cool to see. We'll come back to that in a moment though. Let's switch this back to the default WordPress menu and come back into layout. Now at the moment we're taking a look at a standard horizontal layout, but we have more options available. We could set this to be vertical if we wanted to, and you can see that immediately converted over to a vertical menu. We can change that to expanded, and what that'll do is it'll basically push it into the mobile responsive mode, and again we can now control the hamburger alignment. So if you wanted to have a really simplified navigation that just has the hamburger menu, or your choice of menu icon, you could do just that by choosing the expanded option. If we come down, we also have flyout. This will kind of do the same thing. We still have that little hamburger menu, but if we click on it, we can now take a look. Let's just put that back to the center. We can now have a flyout menu in this example from the left-hand side. If we want to, we can change that to be coming out from the right-hand side, and we can change the effect to push instead of slide. And now when we click, that'll push everything over and come in from the right-hand side. So you have a range of really nice kinds of menus that you can use to get really creative with the designs and the layouts to make sure your site looks great. However, this is not all we can do. There are so many more things. And the next example, we're going to go beyond this simplistic version. And we're going to take a look at how we can create some more mega menu type layouts very easily, harnessing the power of both Ultimate Add-ons for Elementor and Elementor itself. So I've reset the menu back to its original layout. What we're going to do now is take a look at how we can create custom menus. So let's just change this from the WordPress menu and choose custom. Now, if we take a look at the options we have, it's pretty simple. You can create a very simplified menu structure here if you want to, that doesn't rely upon creating menus as part of WordPress, but we can get a lot more creative. So if we take a look at these items, we'll see how they work. First of all, you've got your menu item, which is, in this example, a main menu or top level menu item. Then underneath that, we've got a sub-menu item. So you can see when we mouse over, we get the sub-menu option. Let's come into the menu item first of all and see what's available. First thing we've got is item type. You can see we can choose between a menu and a sub-menu. Then underneath that, we've got the name of this, so we can change that to whatever we want. We can even use dynamic tag values. So if we're using dynamic content, we could use that inside here as well. We can also configure the links we want this to go to. And we've also got things like the drop-down width, and we've got a range of options, which I'll cover in a moment, and also the drop-down position. Next, we've got the sub-menus, and this works in a very similar fashion. So we've got the sub-menu, the content type, and you can see we can work with saved sections and saved widgets. Again, these are things that I will cover in a moment. We've then got the text that's going to be used, and also the link. So we can structure this in any way that we want. It is all very simple to set up. However, the real power of this comes in when we start to use some templates, and that's what we're going to do next. We're going to take a look at, first of all, creating a very simple template to show off a range of our products, and then we're going to create a global widget that allows us to easily update content and show off various different posts as part of our site. So this should give you a good idea of how you can embrace the power of the navigation menu option, and also how you can tie that in to create mega menus with the flexibility of Elementor. So let's take a look at doing that. First of all, let's publish this so we don't have to come back and redo everything. So we're going to click on publish. We'll set our condition and we'll say this is going to be the navigation for our entire site. We'll save and close, and that's our template now saved for us. So we can come out of this and we can go back to our dashboard and we can start to create the layout for our products. To do that, we're simply going to come up to saved templates, and inside there we're going to create a new section template. So we'll click on section, we're going to add a new section, and we're going to give this a name, and we're just going to call this recent products, and we'll create our template. Once that's created, we then have the option to pick any of the predefined blocks. However, we're going to start with a nice clean slate. So we're going to close this down. We're going to go to our widgets, and we're going to search for the products widget. Drag and drop that into our design. Once we've done that, we can now set up the basic parameters for this. We're going to set this to be one row, and we don't need pagination. This is basically going to be our mega menu. So what we're going to do is going to come into the query, and we can set up what the source of the products is going to be. Now you can see this says this is latest products, but we could choose from any other options that are available. Latest products works perfectly fine for this example though. All we're going to do is we're going to come back to our widgets, and we're going to drag and drop a heading in just so people know exactly what this is, and we'll just say this is the latest products. So that's all we need to do. We'll publish this, and that's the template created. So all we need to do now is go back into our custom header. We're going to come back into a theme builder, and from there we're going to come into our default header and edit that with Elementor. And inside there we can now set this up. So let's just select our menu, our custom menu. Menu item 1 is fine, but let's just change the name of that. So at the moment it doesn't make a lot of sense. So we're just going to say latest goodies. Link, we can leave that as it is, because this is just going to be used to trigger that mega menu. Underneath that, you've got drop down width, drop down position. We'll come back to that in a moment. What we want to do now though is come into the submenu section, and from here we can tell it we wanted to use a template. At the moment it says content type is text. Let's just change that now to a saved section. Once we've done that, we're going to choose our section we've just created, which is recent products. We'll choose that option, and you can see now if we mouse over our latest goodies, we now have our custom mega menu popping down. Now obviously there are a couple of issues at the moment. This is kind of looking a bit small, looks a bit squashed up in the right hand side, so let's deal with that. We're going to come back to our latest goodies, which is our main menu section. From there, we can now control the drop-down width and the drop-down position. So if we open up the drop-down width, you can see we have 5 different options above default. Custom, as its name suggests, allows us to create a custom size. So at the moment, that's set to 220, but we could change that to a different value. So we can bump that to about 1,000 pixels. And you can see now that kind of appears, but squishes over to the right-hand side. So let's just say we want to adjust this. We'll say we want this to go right. And now that comes over and makes more sense. Or we could set this to be centered. And you can see that now centers on our navigation item. We could also come in and choose one of the 4 key options for working with the layout that we create to have a bit more flexibility over custom. So you've got equal to section, container, column, and widget. But what exactly do they mean? So let's quickly look at the documentation for the navigation widget. You can see this shows us all the various different options we have for the section, container, column, and widget. So if we take a look, equal to the container, in other words, the width of the container that holds the main part of our website. You've also then got equal to section, which is the entire section of the website, equal to the widget, which is basically the navigation widget itself, or equal to the column, and the column is basically where the navigation widget resides. Hope that makes sense, but hopefully what you'll see with this is that you can get a visual representation of what I'm kind of talking about to get your head around how this all works. So let's take a look at some of these now in action. Let's start off by taking a look at equal to section. So we click on that and we come back over. You can see this now fills out the entire section, so it's pretty much full width in this example. We come back in and say equal to column, and you can see our column is basically taking up 3/4 of this top section. The organic store, our little logo, is a different section. So when we come over this, it doesn't encroach upon that section that's part of the organic store logo section, or column I should say. And again, we can come up and we can say container. So if the container was smaller, this container here, then we'd have that being a smaller menu. But again, like I say, I would refer back to that navigation widget documentation if you really need to get a good understanding to see how this all works. Now for our example, I want this to be equal to the actual container. So I'm going to come up and choose that option. So that gives us a nice wide block. Now we can style this in any way we want because it's basically just a template for Elementor. So you could create any additional styling, do whatever you want, create multiple column layouts. You can get super creative with this method. So that's the first way of doing things. So let's just update this and take a look at it on our test site to see how this all looks. Let's just hop over to our test site and we'll refresh this now so we've got our custom navigation. We go to the top, you can see there's our latest goodies, and it now fits inside the confines, so you can see it comes in line with the edge of our content. So that's nice, tidy laid out. Okay, so that's the first way of doing things. The next way is working with global widgets. So what is it exactly is a global widget, and what's the point of using that? So a global widget is basically any of the Elementor widgets, be that things like headers, images, all those kinds of things, that you set up some styling, you set up some options inside there's some content, then you save that as a global widget. Then you can use that global widget anywhere in your design. So you could use it in multiple different locations on your site, and then by making a change to that global widget, everywhere that's used throughout your site, that change will be reflected in every single instance. So this is something that can be quite useful when you want to use this inside your navigation, and that's exactly what we're going to take a look at next. Now, creating a global widget is a little different to creating a template. So what we're going to do is do that next. So what we're going to do is I'm simply going to come over and we're going to use this template for our header, and we're going to use this to create our global widget. Then we can just delete it from inside our template. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in a new section, and from there we're just going to simply grab a widget. So we're going to keep this really, really simple. We're going to come down and we're going to grab the posts widget because we're going to create a sort of blog entry that's going to be part of our custom mega menu. So all this is doing is pulling in the latest 3 posts. You can set up any additional parameters, queries, design options, anything you want to do. But all we need to do once you set all that is select the widget, and it has to be just the widget. You can't do this from selecting a column or a row or anything. It has to be the widget itself. So we're going to select the widget. We're going to right click in this little blue icon in the top corner, and we're going to say save as global. We choose that. We now give this a name. So we're going to call this global latest blog posts, and we'll save that. We've now created a global widget, and you can see there's our global widget, and it's denoted by being global because we've got this little yellow folder icon in the top left hand corner. Okay, so now we've done that, let's just delete that from there. We've created it. We don't need it to be available on this page any longer. Now we can use that in conjunction with our custom nav menu. So let's just select our nav menu, and we're going to come down this time to our second submenu. Before we do though, let's just rename this first menu item, and we're going to call this latest blogs. And then we're going to come down and we're going to just choose the submenu option. And from there, we're going to change this from text like we did the last time. But this time we're going to choose the saved widget option. And then from the new option that pops out, we've got select widget. And what we're going to do is select the widget we want to reference. And there's our global latest blog posts. We'll select that. And now if we come over, you'll see we get the same thing again. We just need to configure that now in the main menu section. So let's come back to our latest blogs. And from there, we can just set things up in here. So drop down, we can say we want this equal to container. And then you can see when we come over, we now get our new custom mega menu showing just our new blog posts. So let's just update our header template. And let's take a look at this on the front end of our test site. So let's come back over, we'll refresh this and we'll take a look. So there's our latest goodies. We can see there's our range of latest products and our latest blog items. We move over to the next option. Finally, let's also just check this all looks the way we expect it to on any kind of mobile or tablet device. If we check it out on the iPad, you can see our navigation is in the top right hand corner. Everything is scaled the way we would expect it to. Click to open that up and you can see there's our two sections. And we can click to open this up. There's our latest products. And if we look underneath, there's our latest blog items. Now you could easily refine this to make sure it looks perfect. So you may want less articles, you may want less latest goodies. However you want to set it up for mobiles or tablets, you can do that using Elementor. Let's come back out of this and let's just switch this over now to something like the iPhone X. And again, we can see, let's just make sure we're on 100% and we can click. There's our different items. Everything is set up the way we'd expect it to be. So all looking pretty cool on whatever kind of device we decide to work on. Now obviously you'd spend a little time tidying this up, add some extra margins and some padding and things like that into this, just to make sure everything looks great, maybe even a drop shadow, just so you can get some separation. But hopefully what this has demonstrated is it's not complex to create great looking menus, whether that's mega menus, simple menu structures, flyout menus, and all other manner of great menus using the navigation widget in Ultimate Add-ons for Elementor. If you've enjoyed this video and you've found it useful, please consider hitting that subscribe button to be notified every time new videos are added. As always, love to get your feedback in the comment section below, so drop any comments, questions, or feedback on this video or anything else that I've covered in that comment section below. And until next time, take care.